Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day is, do you think that Tachanka is now a viable operator in Rainbow Six Siege? Well, without a doubt, he is significantly better than he used to be. By giving him that face shield, they took away his biggest weakness, which is headshots. And while I know you could say that headshots are the weakness of every operator, it's just exacerbated by his gadgets. If you need to stand still and you're in that turret, it makes it very easy for the enemy not only just to drone you out to know where you're located and then shoot you through a wall, but also just round the corner and take you out no problem. Being stationary in Rainbow Six Siege when the enemy knows where you're located isn't necessarily a death sentence, like you can still win the firefight, but it makes it a lot easier for the enemy to take you down. And so by giving Tachanka access to this face shield, it's reduced that weakness significantly. Now when you get in a firefight with him, you need to go for body shots against a 3 armored operator so he can absorb a lot of that damage, and he's using a heavy duty turret which is going to rip into your soul and hit like a truck. That said though, he's nowhere near as overpowered as I think some people were expecting him to be. A lot of people assumed that you could just place down a deployable shield in front of him. The deployable shield would of course absorb all of the damage for body shots, the face shield would absorb the headshot damage, and he would just be this immortal god where no one could deal with him. I mean, sure, you could throw a grenade to try to take him out or eventually break the shield, but that would take a long time, and in that while, he would be able to just destroy your entire team. That hasn't really been the case. Now, while he is good on some maps in some situations, there's a lot of things that are holding him back. First of all, they added a lot of recoil, or at least it seems like they've added a lot of recoil to this gun. If you're trying to snipe someone at long range, good luck with that. Not only because you don't have access to another weakness, which is you don't have a scope, you only have the iron sight, so it's kind of challenging to even see what the hell is going on in the distance, but also because of that substantial amount of recoil, you need to be very accurate with that first shot if you're going to be able to do any damage whatsoever. On top of that, there's also some really wonky bugs and glitches associated with this gadget. Much like Blackbeard, where you would all of a sudden just get headshotted through the shield, this happens a lot right now with Tachanka. I've had moments where I got in a firefight with someone, and within the first couple of bullets, the enemy would dome me. They clearly did not do enough damage to the shield to go through that 500 HP. I'm directly facing them, but they all of a sudden magically take me out no problem. It's very frustrating when that happens. If all that wasn't enough though, they also buffed Fuse. Fuse is very, very good right now. I mean, if you know where the Tachanka is and you can place a cluster charge above him or next to the wall, there's no way that guy's coming out of alive. Like, I have killed so many Tachankas because of Fuse now, because it's an easy free kill. And so, while on certain maps and in certain game modes, Tachanka is finally a viable option, and that's amazing. And honestly, this is probably a good way at balancing out operators. You do not want to have a class that is a must pick for every single map. This is the reason why Blackbeard got nerfed the way that he did. And so all in all, I'm really happy with the way that Ubisoft handled these changes. It of course is going to take a couple more weeks for us to not only learn how to use Tachanka properly, no one was using this guy before, so it opens up a lot more possibilities. People are going to have to learn actually how to use this guy, but once we get a handle on that, I have a feeling that he is going to be good on certain maps, he's going to be a strong pick, but he isn't going to be this god tier operator that everyone picks, which honestly is a good thing. The next question comes from Brian, and it is, how do you feel about the recent patch for Battlefield 1? In general, I am really happy with this update. They nerfed the weapons that needed it, mainly the Model 10 shotgun. That thing was disgusting in the past, but they also upgraded some of the lesser used weapons. I am now having a blast with the Lewis gun. I'm now using the MP18, which I would never use in the past because it just would not compete with something like the Hellriegel or the Automatico. This was the biggest weakness I had with Battlefield 1. At its core, the combat was incredibly satisfying, but I was noticing that I was only picking like 1 or 2 weapons per class. That seems to finally be remedied, at least slightly, with this update. I'm now experimenting more, it seems like we just have more options, and when I'm using a gun, as long as I'm using it properly, it doesn't feel like I'm at a severe disadvantage. When I use the MP18, for example, as long as I know what I'm doing, it seems like I can now finally compete against something like the Automatico. I'm loving that about this patch. What I'm not too satisfied with though is Giant's Shadow. I might be in the minority here, but I don't like this map at all. It's cool in concept. The idea of fighting over this ruined or crashed down behemoth, this airship, sounds really cool in concept, but what they delivered on, at least for me, is just not satisfying at all. I think one of the reasons why I feel this way is that this is a sniper's paradise. There is almost no cover. There's no cover. You are always running out in the open to move from point to points. Or if you're not moving from point to points, you're fighting in the behemoth, you're fighting in the carcass, and there's so much chaotic gameplay where it just feels like you're not in control of your surroundings. And while chaotic gameplay can be fun, I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way. Like, there's just something about the map that hasn't clicked with me. Maybe I just need to give it more time, but so far, I'm just not enjoying the combat or the map for those two main reasons. If all that wasn't enough, they had to also add in probably the most obtrusive fog weather in the game. You thought fog was bad in some maps? Oh, this takes it to a whole nother level. I think the reason why the fog is as thick as it is on Giant Shadow is because they realize that the map is basically just an open field, and that makes it way too easy for snipers to, of course, take you out at long range, and so they added in this fog to mitigate that a bit. It feels like a band-aid fix for a much larger systemic problem, and that's the fact that the map just isn't well balanced for normal gameplay. If you need to add in this fog to make sure that snipers aren't ruining everyone's experience, then you may need to add in a couple more objects to hide behind. The fog isn't even any fun to fight in when you're playing as an assault player, if you're not using a sniper rifle. Even for assault, it sucks because you just don't know what the hell is going on around you. The reason why people didn't enjoy Battlefield 4's version of Gulf of Oman was because of the sandstorm. It obstructed your vision, it just wasn't fun to fight because you had no idea what was happening around you, and that seems to be the same problem that we're having with Giant Shadow. And so while all in all, I love this update because of what they've done to the weapon balance, I'm finding that the game feels a lot more interesting because I'm using a wider variety of guns. I'm not very satisfied. I'm not satisfied at all with Giant Shadow. Maybe it will grow on me. Maybe in a couple of weeks, I will appreciate what the combat brings to the table. But right now, it does feel like a disappointment. The next question comes from Malcolm, and it is, what do you think about an operator in Rainbow Six Siege that has a passive flying drone that circles the map or can be operated remotely? Any defensive operator who steps outside their base are spotted instantly foregoing the 2-second countdown. Well, this would definitely be a great way at countering players that like to employ this tactic. If you're playing on plane, for example, this happens constantly. Just because of the very nature of the way that plane is designed, at least for those first couple of seconds, people are constantly running outside because if the offensive team isn't expecting it and they're running up the staircase of death, they have nothing to hide behind, and while it's not a free kill, you still have to aim, it's really easy for the defensive team to get a multi-kill by just spraying down the staircase. I've also had rounds against a 5-man team where this seems to be the only thing that they know how to do. Every single one of their roamers are constantly jumping outside of windows to try to get an easy kill against you, and to have a drone that would spot them instantly would be a great way at countering them. The thing is, though, is that we sort of already have a counter for this right now, and that's the Claymore. Sure, for the first couple of seconds, the Claymore is completely useless because you can't lay down a Claymore at the start of the round, or at least one that's going to be useful, but as long as you're able to make your way up to the objective building and place this down in key spots where you know a lot of people like to jump out at, the Claymore is the perfect counter to this to begin with. It actually will get you the kill, or at least down the enemy. And so I'm just not sure how useful this guy would really be in the long run. If all he does is provide this passive bonus where it will just auto-spot someone that jumps outside, yeah, it's going to be helpful when you make your way up towards the building, but then after that, when you get your entire team inside, it loses all of that potential. Like, you're not really going to get much benefit out of it. I guess if you could fly this around manually, and you could just fly this around the outside, so you could kind of figure out if the enemy is peeking from a window or anything like that, it might be a little bit more useful. But if you can't bring it into the building itself, then I just don't see this guy being all that helpful. And so while I do give it to you that this is a very interesting idea for an operator, a lot of people have suggested many times for Sunday Mailbox questions that they reduce the time limit from 2 seconds just to instantaneously. There's a lot of people that don't like the fact that the defensive team can run outside, and this would be a great way at countering that. At the end of the day, I can't see players wanting an operator where that's all they bring to the table. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about what we discussed in today's video. Are you loving the update to Battlefield 1? Do you completely disagree with me and you would love to have an operator like that in Rainbow Six Siege? Let me know down below. As always, if you would like to submit your own question for an upcoming episode of Sunday Mailbox, you can also leave a comment or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.